Hello,
Hello, everybody.
everybody. Welcome to the Dutch Doctor Who channel. I'm Igmanic Joker, and we have royalty in our midst, and that is Queen Charlotte,
YouTube royalty, as I now am.
Queen of Streams, Queen of Streams.
That's your title you've given me, Queen of Streams. That's not a bad one.
Fifth in a row.
Well,
But
somebody has
yeah,
to do it.
tomorrow you are free.
Tomorrow and Wednesday are my
Yeah,
days off this week.
you can do gaming or other things or relax,
Yeah,
watch some good series over movies.
yeah, I'll go Netflix. This is the other thing I do
Oh,
at night. So,
do you have Netflix? I have also Netflix.
oh yeah, there's a
Uh,
few things I really loved on Netflix, so I
and,
sort of am
uh,
going through
have you,
them slowly.
is that the only streaming you have, or have
Yeah,
you also got Amazon or something?
Netflix is the only one I have
Hmm.
because it's I and people who know me, I can just about work tech. Like it's a miracle I even can do streams.
And
So it's like, don't
Mhm.
complicate things for me.
And is there also is the series you like the Line of Duty? Is that also on Netflix, or is
No,
that
that's BBC. So that would
no,
be.
BBC at the moment? But in the future they maybe do that
I think
the
it is on
series.
Netflix
Okay,
because some
but
BBC thing is on. Some BBC shows are on there.
mhm. I haven't seen Line of Duty yet, but I'm now curious because you do the streams with Daniel, and I hear some good things. So if it's on Netflix, I can do some.
You could have a
But it,
go. See what you think. Watch like a couple
yeah,
of episodes, and if you
but
don't, if you like,
because I can't look to BBC because you're in the middle of a series, another series. Yeah, I must watch it from the beginning.
yeah, I think if I got it from the beginning, I've never looked at how much they have on it. I just know it's on there because somebody else, I think Bolstrick actually was on stream and was like, "Oh, you and Daniel, that show you talk about, I've seen it on Netflix."
Mhm.
So I think he's going to give it a try as well.
Yeah, like that's the manner of you watch some streams and you get curious about some series. So that's good.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's good to sort of, if you like something,
Yeah,
like in any fashion, like do a stream on it, talk about it, because other people will go, "Oh, I didn't even know about this show or this film," and it can get more people to try it. Hi, PD. We
IPD.
understand, mate. We enjoy your company as long as we can.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Last week we talked had an intro of this series. We started a series of the personality of the Doctor, with his habits, with his quirks, and with his skills. And today we talk about the first Doctor, and that is played by William Hartnell, also by David Bradley in later Stadium, and also another Doctor. I don't know. It was in the
Oh, in the fifth
anniversary.
in the
Yeah,
fifth Doctors.
yes, that's right.
I can't think of the
Herndel.
actor. There
Herndel.
we go.
Yeah.
Because
But
obviously,
the first time we met the Doctor, it was in the 1963 in An Unearthly Child, and we see him together with his granddaughter Susan, and
yeah,
she's on Coal School, and Ian and Barbara are the teachers of the school, and they are curious about Susan, and they are suspicious about her where she lives, and they follow her, and then they see a blue box.
yeah, they see an old rickety blue box.
Yeah, oh, that's the name of the author. Yeah,
I knew
blue.
Daniel would know it.
Yeah. But in the first time we meet the Doctor, he's a little bit suspicious also to Ian and Barbara. He had the first time we see him, he's a little bit harsh. You can say that.
He's not the most friendly bloke, is he?
No spec is he's slow to trust these newcomers.
Yeah,
But
it's
in
sort of,
yeah,
I was going to say I would almost say it's protective. It comes across. He's very protective of his ship, as he refers to it back then, and Susan, and he sort of sees
yeah,
these two as a potential danger, like something that could cause issues. So he doesn't want them to stay or
hmm
to be around him.
yeah. And you can see that also that's a good thing you mentioned, that he was protective, because you see that in the whole era of the first Doctor of William Hartnell, he's protective of the young women he took as companions. Because you can see that with Vicky also.
Yeah, because he wasn't just a grandfather in his looks. I've always thought with the first Doctor, his personality
Yeah,
had that sort of warm grandfather, which
yeah,
was all because it was. But that's what's interesting about Hartnell, because his outer shell almost is the harsh, isn't it? It's the sort of grumpiness, it's the snappiness at times. But if
yes,
you look at the way he either says certain lines or he acts
yeah,
around Susan, I'd say more than Barbara, but yeah, you can see it with Barbara. You
hmm
can see that sort of old grandfather sort of wanting to protect the young, like you said, sort of his own granddaughter or Barbara because of, and like in those days, that's women were seen as having to be protected.
yeah,
Like it's not, and nowadays I know people love to almost condemn the first Doctor for that and try and attack him for that. But it's like if you go back in the time when the show was being made,
hmm
then yeah, you would have male figures being protective of females.
yes.
Yeah,
He's the
and
grand.
yeah, Daniel, grandfather type with the strictness of a grandfather.
hmm And you see that also in the whole tenure of the first Doctor. You see that in the first time he's a little bit unreadable, and after he gained some trust with him, he would show another side of himself.
Yeah, that's
And
just
you can
what
see
said.
that from the beginning, from the first episode to, but also in all other stories. In beginning, you don't know who the person is of this Doctor. You must gain trust. Then he shows his other side of him. Is more warm and yeah, more
Yeah, because
side. Yes.
it's interesting how like obviously when the show was being made in his era,
Mhm.
they hadn't built up all the sort of brilliant mythology like
Mhm.
Time Lord, like Gallifrey, like all those sort of trappings around the character. It was literally just the character almost, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And it was sort of he was just this mysterious figure in every sense of the word.
hmm
I mean, I
But
don't think I think the most we got was the TARDIS being explained, wasn't it?
yes, that's right. We didn't know yet about Time Lords.
Yeah, he
I
just sort of talked about his people. I think that was the term he used, wasn't it? Now and
Yeah,
again.
the Doctor's species or something like that.
Yeah, so I've got a feeling he said a few times like my people, and so that's very vague, isn't it?
hmm
But then also you've got that interesting factor of he's the only Doctor to travel with family,
hmm
with Susan. So I think that meant you naturally saw a very different side to him.
Yes, that's right. And,
Because
and,
he,
and yeah,
I was gonna say, all Doctors get close in a sense to their companions, but they're not blood. And like he was always gonna, that was always a much more sort of, I don't know what word I want to use. Like he valued naturally Susan more in a sense because he was his because she was family in
yeah,
comparison to a companion.
yeah, you can feel that very strong. More the relation between and in the Time Lords. Yes.
Yeah, because like, and that's what's interesting about Barbara. Like you said, like how they got introduced to him. Like they, as teachers, they were like, "Oh, we're worried about our student," so they were like, "We're gonna see what the home life is almost."
hmm
So they're being protective. They're thinking about Susan, and he's being protected back by almost pushing them out the TARDIS. Like that's literally what he's trying to do, isn't it? In that scene when they first arrive inside it.
Yeah, that's right. But he was in a certain way he is egocentric, but he also possessed compassion, warmth, and he acts. But what we mentioned is he acts like a mentor and a guardian figure to his companions.
Yeah,
So
because
at the same time. At the same time. So
yeah,
it's a bit. It looks like a little bit contradictory. It's egocentric, but also, but in a way that he is. He wanted to be a mentor for and to be a guardian for his companions.
yeah, because I think you obviously have, like I said, the familial with Susan relationship, but the relationship with Barbara, I say, is just as interesting because you can see at the beginning they're very stubborn, the both of them. They're very sure of themselves, so they're constantly almost butting heads, aren't they? And then the more that you get through his run, you see the respect for Barbara build, and he will listen to her more, and he will sort of take advice a bit more from her. Whereas at the beginning, he didn't listen to her at all, almost.
Yes, that's right.
So that's another change in him you can see throughout the run.
In some things, I think this doctor is a little bit more distant and more in the distant, but in a way he's accessible, but also much from a distance. I don't know how to explain that.
Well, he, like I said, I think obviously, so we said he was in hiding, wasn't he? Like that's the way I've always almost seen it. Or he sort of had settled on Earth and didn't want to go anywhere else. So you see a doctor who's a lot almost comfortable in his lot in life, where he hasn't got that sort of want to go out and explore. And I think that is a bit of an odd concept for us to watch now, knowing what the Doctor became after Hartnell, almost. That thirst for adventure, that wanting to go out and sort of run into trouble almost and just sort of be a bit more outgoing, wasn't in Hartnell as much. Which isn't a knock on Hartnell at all, because it makes sense. But I think maybe that's why maybe people struggle to access Hartnell or watch Hartnell sometimes.
I sent someone in the private chat.
Yeah, but what do you think then? Is it this? Do you think that's maybe why people struggle because we almost compare Hartnell to what all the Doctors after him?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
No, I was just saying. Do you think maybe you were saying people find him a bit distant almost, or might struggle?
Yeah, he's in some way. I think it's more to do with his role in the thing, because he's a mentor. A mentor is someone who is a little bit above.
Yeah, he's almost at another level.
There's naturally some distance in that.
Yeah, he's almost at a level above, isn't he? Everybody.
But more than the other doctors. More than other doctors, he's more like a mentor. More the distance between companion and him, I think.
Yeah, and it's like I said, that's why almost I find him really fascinating to watch in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's also, I love how in another comparison, like all the other Doctors chose their companions, didn't they?
Yes,
Whereas
that's right.
he didn't. They sort of just landed in his TARDIS or arrived, and he had to sort of just deal with having them.
Yes, that's right. That is also the case. Yes, with Vicky for example, the Vicky
Yeah, I'm thinking more
and
Barbara and
Dodo
Ian.
and. Yeah, it's good that you mentioned that. I think it's indeed it's the companions of the first Doctor are more rolling in the story, and the other were more by choosing.
Yeah, it's like everybody, all the other doctors were like, "Oh, I like you. You can travel with me." Whereas with him, it's like, "You've just arrived in my TARDIS," and then he can't get rid of them. Because I haven't seen as much of Vicky as Ian and Barbara, so you could probably talk more about Vicky.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Uh, he has. What I also notice in some way, in some stories, he's a little bit childish. He can be childish in some ways and more.
Yeah, I've always said he almost is a bit impish. Do you know the way he laughs? It's very high pitched, isn't it?
Mhm.
And he's sort of almost giggling to himself in some scenes. And like the others are like, what do you find so funny? And he's just sort of like giggling, which I quite like. Those scenes when we do see that side to him.
Um, okay. Um, by the way, I'm going back to the story of the first Doctor. In the first stories, you can see that he has no control over the TARDIS.
But
And
yeah, when does he ever? But I know what you mean.
yeah, and you can see that the explanation is always yeah. What do you call it? Um,
It's almost like I've seen a bit of. He doesn't have the time to explain it to everybody. He
yeah,
just sort
that's
of
right.
has the idea, and he's like, I don't need to even explain to you guys. I just need to say it, and it's true almost.
I think I will. Uh, oh,
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. This is me with tech.
I mean, as the first Doctor traveled more, he began to help more people, and we can see that in Marinus, in the Keys of Marinus, and he is not so quick with helping, but only after some arguments he helps Abitan. By the way, so you can see there's also some distance in him. He's not jumping into adventure, but more slowly, more thinking of things, arguments, and then he will help. He
Yeah,
more,
he's a bit. Well, he'll stand up almost to the
yeah.
side or the background and let sort of Ian. That was sort of Ian's role, wasn't it? And some of the other younger male companions he had, they were the action types. Because
Mhm.
obviously, no, with his age, he couldn't do those things.
And the other time we see some things is in the meddling monk. when he meets another Time Lord. That's the first time also when he meets another Time Lord, I think. And then we see it triggers something in him. You can see that.
Yeah, because it's obviously very different, isn't it, for him to see somebody like the meddling monk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of, especially with the personality of the meddling monk, it's like he's basically a bit crazy, isn't he? He's a bit everywhere. So the doctor's like, how do I contend with this almost? How do I sort of fight this? Because he was so almost comfortable, like I said at the beginning, wasn't he? So it's like that. I think that put him properly out of his comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. Further on, that there was one thing with the chase. I noticed that the doctor believed that there was a reason for everything in the universe, and having left care left free to find out what kept the balance between good and evil.
Yes, and also history. He's very he's one of those doctors who's very much history can't be replaced. He has that line, you can't rewrite history, not one line of it.
Mm-hmm. And he was also the one who it was also in a certain way not like the Seventh Doctor, a more tactical figure in some way. It's not so violent as other doctors are, but that's because also of the age. Because we meet the Doctor in the first time when he is also an older version of him. There are stories of the Doctor that's meant more in audio. The younger version of the first Doctor, but we meet him in his older days.
Yes, so it's like we're seeing him almost at the end, aren't we, of his life? Because even sort of that's the explanation for why he regenerates, isn't it? It's like, old body's wearing thin.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he's had a family, obviously to have a granddaughter, and all these things have happened, but we've not seen it.
Okay. There is also a story about that was in the case of the Aztecs. You know the story?
Yes, I've watched that one.
Yes, and then Barbara wanted to change. The Doctor came to the defense of the established history. There's some fixed points. This is the first time fixed point in the whole Doctor Who.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. Like, Barbara's a history teacher, isn't she?
Yeah, and she wants to change it, but he wants to defend the established history in that story.
Yeah,
so you can see the strong personality of the Doctor in it. He's a protector of he's protective of the history. He's very concerned in it, the concerned version of him.
Yeah, and it's such a human thing for Barbara to be like, oh, I know their history, I know it's not going to end horribly, and I can change it. And that's a very human thing, whereas the Doctor's like, no, that once again, you were saying that almost the level he's above everybody. He's saying, no, I understand, but you can't change this. Like, history has its order and has its points. So that's another thing. That's why the Aztecs is such a good episode to watch, because you see two very understandable points of an argument being played out throughout the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
And the Doctor never demeans Barbara for having that viewpoint. He understands why Barbara has that viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just sort of saying that. But you've got to look at almost the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
Not just, I know you've met these people now and you know the history. And I like stories in the show when they do say, well, it's not all fun and games traveling in history.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the link I wanted to make. But we could go back to the first, the monk. That's also the same case with that. The first monk wants to change history, and he's protective. So we can see more cases with that. That he is echt in defense of the established history, more in fixed points, more and more.
Yeah,
He quickly labeled him as a time meddler. That's you call it, and he quickly continued to uphold his belief that history could not be changed.
yeah, and I think the monk is an interesting character to have in
Mm-hmm.
the first run of a Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
To sort of, and like we said, to have a Doctor that's so strict at times and so sort of straight, sort of set in his ways, to have sort of the force of the monk appear. But like I said, also to have his companions challenge him.
Mm-hmm. Also, the Doctor did not associate himself with a specific culture, claiming to be a citizen of the universe and a gentleman to boot. They can see that in Dalek's master plan. He described himself as having the directional instinct of a homing pigeon.
Yes, well, I sort of like it's like he's sort of, but even then, you can see the start of him being interested almost, can't you? In other,
Yeah.
like he's sort of saying he's a citizen of the world. He likes to look at cultures. He likes to look at different sort of people and sort of observe them almost.
Yeah, and in the case, and also is that he did not allow others to intimidate him. He didn't allow that to intimidate him. There's also on a very characteristic of him.
Yeah, but it's
not so quick intimidated.
Oh no, I think the first Doctor was very good at sort of facing down enemies, wasn't he?
Yeah, in comparison to other Doctors, he's not so not so quick intimidated.
No,
that was also noticed it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you think about the fact that he was the first Doctor who saw the Daleks, so maybe after, and I think maybe even after the Daleks, that made him more sort of almost correct in his views, and to sort of think, no, I have to stand up for stuff, or people, or things that I see that are wrong in the universe.
And further on, the Doctor once claimed to Vicky that he was a wanderer and a survivor. And that's an interesting sentence.
Yeah, especially as obviously the Time War hadn't happened yet.
Yeah. Because we know if in much later in the story we know that the Time War was much later, I think. But in this case, I doubt it.
No, the Time War hadn't happened. Yeah, probably no, the Time War hadn't happened yet, had it?
Yeah, but that's also a weird thing. I when I think about it, survivor.
Yeah, that's a very interesting term.
Maybe the Time War is a constant thing.
Could it maybe be he's a survivor because he's lost his family?
I think so.
Because that's another thing. Obviously, with the just the fact that he's travelled with the granddaughter, you think, well, where's the rest of his family? And they're sort of never explored or brought up in the first Doctor's run.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'd say it's a lot later when that stuff starts to be brought up to the floor about like it be having kids or being like a husband, obviously, or so. Yeah, no, that's a really interesting term.
Yeah. And we have a case. We mentioned last week in the Three Doctors. We see that it was a bit strange. I thought about it. He meets the second and the third Doctor, and he already knows how to call them. because one he calls a dandy, another a clown. But how can he know his second and third incarnation?
I think a bit of that is just him sort of looking at them, isn't it, and just seeing the
Yeah,
outfits and just having an assumption almost of them. But that's another thing. Like the Doctor, whenever you have any multi-Doctor, and like this isn't unique to the first Doctor, they all have a bit of a jibe at each other, don't they?
yeah. But what you can see in the story is also that he takes the lead in it. He instructs the second and the third Doctor in some case.
Well, yeah, that's another. Like even in the five Doctors later on, he's
Yeah.
very sort of like I said, he's that grandfather who could be stern, but when he has to be, he can be quite sort of. This is what we're going to do. This is the way we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, I think the Doctor, and I think that was important to have in the first incarnation. Sort of lay down that idea of the Doctor is a very powerful being with just his words. He doesn't need to use violence. He doesn't have to be young and like a spry man. He can be older, but be just as commanding and sort of being able to sort of make everybody listen to him.
Mm-hmm. But after a while, he admits that they do quite well, and so he's also met compliments, giving compliments in some way to these other incarnations, and also there's an audio who mentioned that the first Doctor associated himself with his second and seventh incarnations. And that is because of in relation to think of a solution in a situation. So
Yeah,
there's also a
that's
mentioning.
another thing. I always think of the first Doctor as being like very solution based sort of Doctor.
Yeah. Also the seventh Doctor was also in some way in this. So I can imagine that he says of himself, yeah, I look like my second and seventh incarnation. In some way, because
Yeah,
they are also technical thinkers.
yeah, and a bit of arrogance.
Yeah, with arrogance, yes.
But I think, like I said, I think the first Doctor, I think they needed a bit of arrogance. They needed that sort of almost Sergeant Major sort of vibes in bits. I mean, more to do with being able to just like walk into a room and command everybody and they shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it was important to establish, and I think William did this brilliantly. It was like that. You can tell with the first Doctor, they didn't want you to think of him as a friend almost. They wanted him to be this mysterious but commanding presence.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of made you want to ask more questions.
Yes, but I don't think that first Doctor was too much manipulative.
Oh no, he wasn't.
He wasn't. Not in comparison to others. For example, the seventh incarnation was more was too manipulative in some way.
Yeah, the first Doctor was quite straight to the point, and if he had an issue, he'd say it to your face, sort of personality, wasn't
he? Mm-hmm.
He wasn't very sort of like the Doctor can either be sort of working behind the scenes a lot and sort of almost wanting to seem as not much of a presence, or they can be like Hartnell. I'm trying to think of a few others that are very sort of like actually. No, I think Eccleston had that where it was like he's gonna say his issues out loud and he's gonna make them very apparent when he's not happy almost. Whereas like Troughton, like the one after him, like he was very good at sort of looking like the clown and using that to his advantage when he was like setting everything up behind to sort of make the villain.
Okay, where is Queen? The Queen is gone. We wait a second. Have a look in the chat. Okay, she's back.
Sorry,
Hello.
pressed the wrong button again.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't think I was like used to streaming at this point. You'd think like this is my first one. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, okay. Maybe.
Don't you woman and tech issues me, Sadaku. I pressed the wrong button. The looking at the chat button is right next to the leave button. That's what I was doing. Yeah, so I think, to be fair, it is quite interesting to look at like Troughton after Hartnell. Obviously, maybe near the end we'll do that a bit more, but to sort of see. Obviously, Troughton was a very different Doctor in so many ways.
Yeah.
But obviously, like I said, for Hartnell, it was, and I think it's fair to talk about just how much Hartnell almost had to get it right, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it was the new show, like it was a new concept. He was the first. We hadn't had a character like the Doctor.
Well, I also have mentioned some of the Eighth Doctor, and he remembers the first Doctor as a fierce old man. And the 12th Doctor says, consider the first incarnation to have been eccentric, a bit mad, and rude to people. You can see that in Hellbent. We mentioned that in the last weekend, Hellbent, by the way. Some people don't like that, but he said in that episode that he is a little eccentric, bit mad, and rude to people.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's. But I think that Hartnell had a weird charm about him, didn't he? That he could almost pull off the rudeness. Like he could be quite rude, but like I said, he had this sort of sparkle in his eye, sort of thing. And he could sort of say something and, like I said, sort of have that sparkle and that sort of charm about it almost.
Mm-hmm.
Which is because, like I said, because him and obviously I'm talking about Barbara here because I don't think him and Vicky didn't challenge him as much, did she?
That's right.
And I think that maybe that's why you saw the softer stuff with Vicky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where was I? Yeah, we the first Doctor's strongest relationship was with his granddaughter, and some point he lets her go in the story. That was in
Which one? Yes.
She falls in love. She falls in love with David, and then he leaves her there.
Yeah,
and you see also some things from he realizes that there is some point he must he lets her go in some way. He accepting she's now in another phase of her life, and I must let her go. So there's also some things from he admits that she that she and so I must have her own life.
Yeah, and that's such a sad scene almost, isn't it? Because the way William acts it, you can see it's really hard for him to let Susan go. But he that's another thing of like the Doctor showing once again he will always put others before himself.
Yes, that's right.
And I think that's another thing that Bill established by doing that. That he could have kept Susan travelling, but he, like you said, he knew she was in love with this fella, and he was like, I need to let her go at a point.
Yeah.
And the best time is now when I know there's somebody who loves her and who will look after her.
You notice that Susan is more grows up more in the series, and you can see that in some reactions in last stories with her in last episodes.
Yeah, because
And
she sort of.
because he treats her like a child, and there comes a point that she isn't a child anymore. There's some change,
Oh yeah, and it's like.
and he accepts that. And in first time he don't accept it, but later on you can see that with this story you can see he lets her go in that way. He accepts it. He needs the first doctor is someone who needs some time to accept certain things in that way, to
Yeah,
let
he sort
go.
of.
Yeah,
You have to like encourage him, don't you? Almost to
yeah.
have to accept some changes, and
That's
he
also
has.
the case with regeneration. You can see that with Twice Upon a Time. Also, the first and the 12th Doctor cannot accept the code to regenerate. They are afraid of change in that case.
Yeah, and it's sort of.
We can also see that in relations to other people. You
Oh
can see
yeah,
that
and
also in an extreme way with, for example, for Peter Capaldi of the 12th Doctor and Clara. And
yes, and I
that's also a
think
comparison to make with Susan and the Doctor, but another way, but also much difficulty to accept.
yeah, and we've all. That's the thing we love about Capaldi's performance. You can see so many shades of different doctors, and I
Mm-hmm.
do think at times he very much did channel Bill, and he was sort of trying to have a bit of that first Doctor almost distance you were talking about.
Yeah,
But I think in a weird way, the more the Doctor tries to distance himself from a companion, the harder it is for him to let them go.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's very good. You say that. I
Because
this also I feel that about it. Yeah.
like with Susan, it's like he never outwardly shows affection for her, does he?
Hmm.
It's sort of it's in the way like if a monster's gone after her or if she's been in danger, he will check if she's okay. That's his way of showing affection.
Hmm.
Whereas he will probably do it in a fact say, "Oh, you stupid girl," and like be very. If you look at it on the surface, but you think, "Oh, he's telling her off," but
Hmm.
he's doing that because he was worried about her.
Yeah.
So, and I think Susan, what you were saying before, yes, she does very much start off as like the sort of screaming assistant, doesn't she? She gets in a lot
Yes.
of trouble. She seems to get captured or something happens to her.
That's most of the stories. Also taking prisoners.
Yeah, or taken prisoner. Yeah, it's a variant of basically she
every
gets in trouble.
story, every story they are prison.
But as like she progresses, you see her being a little bit more of a bit more sure of herself and be more willing to sort of go, no, I'll go like and look, or I'll go and do something.
Yeah, more responsible for
Yeah,
things.
she definitely gets more respect, and you can, but then that's also if you reflect it back on the first Doctor,
Hmm.
he's letting her do that.
Yeah, that's right.
He's sort of because to begin with, he's very reluctant for her to go, isn't he? Like anywhere separate from him.
Yeah. That's also one. Ian Chesterton once described the first Doctor as being basically good, but bad-tempered and mischievous, and also
Yeah.
voiced that he sometimes didn't trust him.
Oh yeah,
Because
definitely.
he had some hidden agenda, the first Doctor, by the way. Some hidden agenda. And that's why Ian Chesterton not always, because you can see that in some stories, that the Doctor has his own plan. He tells some things to his companions, and in some ways he does some other things on himself more.
Yeah, no, I think you sort of you the first Doctor you never quite knew what he
Yeah,
was doing in a
yes,
sense.
that's right, where he was going.
Like you could tell he was trying to like beat the monster or save the companions or do the right thing, but you almost were thinking like, what's like your ulterior motive here?
Yeah, that is right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
And
So
I do think it's so interesting almost that you'd think for the first version of your character, you'd almost want them to be more open or a bit more friendly. But they went
yeah,
the opposite almost with the first Doctor, didn't they, at times?
yeah.
That sort of standoffishness. Like I said, I think they knew that if they did that, it would make people more interested.
Mhm.
They'd want to sort of learn more about this character and sort of ask questions.
Yeah, you can see that that Ian Chesterton also has some difficulty with the Doctor in some stories.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, Ian had a few crosswords down sometimes with the
yeah,
Doctor.
because he don't understand the first Doctor in some cases in that because of that hidden agenda, and he there are also cases he don't trust him in some way
Yeah, but
because
that's the thing.
because of his hidden agenda also. Yeah.
That's why I think. But I think in a way, the first Doctor needed companions who would question him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they needed. So sort of, sorry, the Doctor needed that sort of. Susan obviously would never question him because she was the granddaughter and she was travelling with him and she knew him. And he needed the presence of Ian and Barbara to actually, like I said, challenge him and make him think separately.
Um, we have also have Polly and Ben. You want the first Doctor want to behave like a grandfather for also for her, but that doesn't work out right. I think because Polly is another more another female character than the others.
Yeah, no,
Something.
I think he saw sort of an. She was obviously young, wasn't she? She had some similarities to Susan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he almost saw Susan a bit because he was like almost longing for Susan because he was still upset that she was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like I said, it was this sort of trying to I don't want to say like replace Susan, but he almost didn't know he was doing it. Is the vibe I get.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, is this sorry, Vicky? Are we talking about Vicky?
No, by Polly.
Polly, sorry. But Polly, to say that though, she was at times she could be quite feisty. Feisty, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Now about some habits or quirks of the Doctor. And he was mentioned also altijd repeatedly uttering dear, oh dear, dear.
Oh dear. Oh,
Or
obviously the
good gracious me. Good gracious me.
yes.
He was surprised. and,
Oh, good gracious. Yeah, I can't do the
look,
voice, but
and also an anti-sentence with mm,
yes,
mm.
I can't do it. I'm so bad at impressions of him, but he had quite a
Uh,
few little
with
quirks,
a
didn't he?
smell. A
But that,
rhetorical question.
yeah, but that sometimes it was so funny because you could tell he was doing that to like take the mick almost at times, or to genuinely show he was interested. It was like you didn't know which way it was going.
Mhm. And we see also when he wished to not engage in someone in conversation, he would bluntly tell them to go away, go away, go away. You can see
Yes.
that also in the first story and also in the Aztecs. There's some you can see also some character in that, and he don't want to engage with someone. He tells them to go away. They want also a sort some of distance in that case.
Yeah, no, but like I said, I quite appreciate the sort of forthrightness of that.
Yeah.
That instead of like trying to talk around the houses or nicely say, he would just like you say, just tell somebody to go away.
Yeah. And he would address young men as child, my child, always. And
Yes.
your man, as my boy, like Stephen, for example, there's also a companion of the first Doctor, Stephen. Yeah, you call him my boy.
Well, that's the thing. To consider, it's like how old must he have been then? Like to any sort of younger male, like human male, they must have looked like children almost to him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. Like, if you were just to do like a surface read of the first Doctor, you could really like paint him out to be a villain almost. But if you actually think it through, so many of his little, like I said, either the rudeness at times or the being very straight and sort of not taking any prisoners, you can understand it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think it was almost needed to set those things in the first incarnation, so that maybe later on you could go a bit softer, or you can do different variants of that. Oh yeah, Sudoku's got a good quote to sort of show him just being, I don't want to deal with you.
And also, when he disagreed with something, the Doctor would scorn and get angry, denying the facts his companions gave to him in these situations. And he was frequently sarcastic, as also something towards those around him, seemingly to elevate himself above lesser intellects.
Yes, like it's sort of. But then I almost think, and I don't know what you think, and like I said, considering that the first Doctor would have, he might have not been very interactive with humans, but he was on Earth for so many years, so he would have picked up little habits. I think even if he didn't want to, of like human traits. And I've always sort of, my little theory in my head is this sort of sarcasm he sort of picked up from humans a little bit. Because if you think about how Time Lords are portrayed, they're not like, they're not sarcastic, are they, Time Lords, whenever they're portrayed, or unless I'm wrong there. They're sort of very grand, aren't they? They speak sort of almost very old-fashioned. And you can almost see that in the first Doctor, sort of the old-fashioned speak, couldn't you?
Sadeko, seen in a Dalek cell to Craddock, who's being defeated about the prospect of escape. My dear young man, if they had to deal with a man of your tennis, they need hardly fear need they.
Yeah, that was some nice sarcasm.
Yeah, the sarcasm. That's sarcasm. Yeah,
it's sort of a very elegant way, isn't it, of saying you're stupid.
mm-hmm.
And that's also nice. Like that's the first Doctor. Like he was one of these types who could use like 50 words when he would use about 50 words when he only needed to use about 2.
Yeah,
and that's what I mean. The sort of old worldness about his speech at times.
And that sarcasm is also a good example of some distance. Sometimes he distances himself with, for example, sarcasm or be cynical in some way.
Oh yeah, it's a good way to push people away, almost, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. So that's very typical of the first Doctor. It's nice to talk about this. When you talk about it, you can think about, oh yeah, that's one. That's a thing about the first Doctor. This is a nice topic. This, yeah. You can when you watch the series, the stories, and you analyze it, you can discuss so much things about it.
But yeah, and it's like different fans see different things, don't they?
Yeah.
Like we can all watch the same episode, but we'll either be like sort of zoning on certain scenes, or certain lines will we go, oh, that line's good, and we'll remember it.
Oh yeah, the next habit of a quirk, you can call it, whenever he coughed, like us,
oh yes,
he would wave his handkerchief around. Always, he had always a handkerchief in his hand. Most of the time.
Yes,
He waved around.
Yeah, like I said, the first Doctor definitely had those sort of feelings of aristocrat at times, didn't he? With
And
that,
you knew always, always when he thinks, because he has also made the habit of biting one his index finger when he's thinking all the time. You can see him think.
yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, most of the
I'll
time you can
notice
see
it now
that.
you said it.
Yeah, he can. His finger biting down on his finger when he's
Because
thinking.
obviously you've also, and like we've not mentioned the obvious, putting the hands on the jacket and the way he would stand. That was that's very much associated with the first Doctor now, isn't it? Because even other Doctors have copied it, haven't they? To sort of signal, oh, there's a bit of Hartnell showing.
Mhm.
So that's another.
Okay. Um, oh yeah, and also we can see some speeches of the Doctor. Most famous is a speech about when he leaves Susan, but also other speeches in the cases. He's also
Well, we've got the famous and the most the speech I think about is obviously in his last episode where
mhm,
it's like, I will come back, the sort of, and that I think that speech is so perfectly written and acted
mhm.
because it's sort of saying, yes, I know I'm regenerating, I know I'm going to go, but it's that theme of sort of don't cry, like don't get sad over it, and I think that's a really powerful sort of moment.
Okay. His skills. I want to talk about his skills.
Yes, he had quite a few.
Yeah, it was an intellectual incarnation. First of all, most of the time he left the fighting to others, but that is because of his older appearance also.
Yes, and
Um,
you could see the scientist. This was the start of the scientist we saw in the
yeah,
Doctor, wasn't it? Because there'd be like a whole when is it the I don't know which Dalek episode it is, but the way they're in the cell, him and Ian, and the way he gets out is basically he explains a science experiment almost, doesn't he? To get the door open because it's something to do with light. He like has to do something with prisms and light, and it's a proper little sciencey almost. That because we know the show when it first came on was this theme to educate people, wasn't it? So that's why you'd have moments with Hartnell where he would sort of give these almost little science lessons. So you sort of saw very much that beginning trait.
um, and so he was certainly a thinker when it came to defeating his enemies. I mentioned strategizing.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
going to say he was definitely a strategist,
yeah.
wasn't he?
The elders recognized him as a man of infinite wisdom. You can see that in Savages in the story. With the Doctor believing that knowledge was the only way to defeat the evil creatures of the universe. That's a characteristic. He says knowledge is the only way to defeat evil creatures. That is his opinion.
Yeah, and it's sort of I think that's maybe the bit of the start of the Doctor not using violence to defeat his
Yeah,
enemies.
yeah.
Sort of always trying to find the either peaceful or diplomatic, or like I said, just use science, like you were saying.
Mhm.
So I think the Doctor's very much one of these people who would always argue there's a better way, isn't he?
Yeah.
There's a more humane, there's a more sort of less sort of painful or violent way. And you definitely did see that in the first Doctor.
You have also the first Doctor is also wearing a ring in the series in the seasons, or sort of ring. You can see that that he's wearing a ring, and he used that ring for some purposes, and also for instance, you have Dodo, and her mind is in mind control of Wotan. That's that story, and he used that ring to help her out of that control.
Yes, like I said, Dodo's another one. Like I said, because I've not seen all the part now. I'm sort of getting through.
But yeah, Dodo was in my opinion more. She was not not so strong character in the series.
Yeah, that's the impression I get. Like, so I might be different when I see her, but it just also at that point we know William's health wasn't brilliant, don't we? So it was, you could see that they were trying their best almost at times.
And also sometimes he wears spectacles for reading eyesight. Those
Yeah, he
also.
has his little monocle, doesn't he? I do think also his appearance is like it's quite simple, isn't it? His outfit. There's nothing quite eye catching about it. It's only really when sometimes he has the cloak, isn't it, and the scarf. That's sort of a bit more of a silhouette and a bit more of an outline.
Okay. Oh yeah, there's also one on the lost story of Marco Polo. That
Yes,
the
that's
doctor
one
was
of
also
his.
a skilled gambler. Was a skilled gambler. Another ability.
But I can see the first Doctor being good at poker. I can see him being good at having a poker face, sort of being not giving anything away. But that's the other sort of shame, isn't it? With his era, obviously we're missing chunks of it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have other things. I think about First Doctor. Have I
Well,
mentioned all the companions? By the way. Oh no.
yeah,
Oh, we have also another companion with short-lived companions like Katarina or.
you sort of forget how many companions he had, don't you?
I must wait.
You do really forget that he had quite a lot. No, but that's the thing though with the first Doctor. They didn't want to overload. I felt the audience with a lot of information, did they?
The first that was they had in the beginning they had many companions. Sometimes too much companions. By the way.
Do you think? Because I think the setup of three is because obviously the episodes were longer. Do you not think that helped him having a lot of companions? Because obviously, if it's like a six-parter, that's a lot of time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Sarah Kingdom. That was Catherine and Sarah Kingdom, and also in the case of the story of the Daleks. Okay.
Who was your favourite companion then for the first Doctor?
For the first Doctor, I think Stephen.
See, I don't think I've got to Stephen yet, so tell me why you like
Stephen Taylor. But have you seen all the stories of the first Doctor?
No, I've still got some I have to watch.
Okay, but you don't all the first story.
Yeah, I've seen Unearthly Child.
Mm-hmm.
And I said I've seen a good chunk of Ian, Barbara, and Susan. It's when we get after them that I'm a bit more spotty with the first Doctor and companions.
Yeah, that is also, you can talk about Stephen Taylor. That's a good one, but because you can see in the beginning also he has an uneasy relationship with Stephen Taylor. That's also was one thing with women. He has more. Yeah, he clicks more than with men. I think you can see with Ian, but also with Stephen. But
Yeah.
a little bit uneasy, like it's like alpha male or something, right?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I've never thought of that, but you are right. Like for all the sort of arguments he can have with his female companions, he does get on with them better, doesn't he? But then that's the thing with Ian, though, and obviously you can talk more about Stephen. Like you could see he did by the end very much trust Ian and sort of care about him. I just think if he struggled with if he struggled to show it with Barbara, I think he struggled even more with his male companion, like Ian, and like was he like that with Stephen? Did he sort of struggle to show his affection for Stephen? Because that's what I feel like he was like with Ian.
Yeah, it was a little bit uneasy relation.
Yeah, uneasiness. That's a good way to describe it.
But in the end, he called him my boy. You can see in at last it is it's all good. I think the relationship, but it must take some trust also. But he has more trust in women, like or than in men. I think.
See, and that is so interesting because
It's very typical about the first Doctor. By the way, very typical for the first Doctor.
yeah,
The other
that
doctors
is
have more we can more with men.
yeah, because yeah, but that is so interesting also because obviously the way some more modern people look at the first Doctor, they accuse him of being sexist, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if you actually look at no, you are right. When you actually look at how he treats his companions, he does have more of an ease around the female ones. Because that was, like I said, in Twice Upon a Time. I'll have to ask you what you felt of that version of the first Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt it was completely, almost Moffat was purposefully making him out to be something he wasn't. How did you feel about the first Doctor in Twice Upon a Time?
Yeah, he was not so good portrayed, not in a certain way. Because I think the William Hartman was more respectful in some case, in some.
But yeah, and I felt like they purposely took lines from the original Doctor,
Yeah.
and obviously out of context they do sound a lot worse than they actually were when in the time and in that episode. That because they took the famous like, oh, I'll smack your bottom line, didn't they? And he said it to Bill, and it's like saying that to anybody who isn't your granddaughter. Yes, it's bad, but when it's a blatant grandfather saying that to his granddaughter, it's completely different.
Yes.
And it's like I said, That really put me off that episode. And I hadn't even watched a lot of the first Doctor at that point. But even I was like, this isn't right. Like, Moffat, you were completely changing almost the first Doctor here to suit either the story or the politics.
Vicky, okay, that's we're going to go further with Steven Taylor. Vicky eventually left the Doctor's company as well because she also fallen in love with a man, also like Susan. And you can see then that the Doctor and Steven are alone, and you can see that Steven is bitter in some ways to the Doctor, blaming him for also blaming him for the deaths of their traveling companions Katerina and Sarah Kingdom. Short-lived companions, but he eventually forgave him. There is also some emotion in a certain moment. I think that is the turning point that they are more close together.
Yeah, and
it was not an easy relation, but after that you can see more that they grow to each other. That's what I want to say. There's a nice development there.
Yeah, no, and I think the first Doctor, is one of those people who would take umbrage if you challenged him, but afterwards he would respect you for it. Because he would rather you were sort of upfront with him, like he is with people. Because I think, like I said, that's what Barbara did, that's what Ian did, it sounds like that's what Stephen did. Like, he had a lot of companions that did that.
And after that, they were joined by Dodo. That was the moment that Dodo came. And after that.
Oh, okay. So how many?
Then there was, and I think Dodo was not great, but I think she was also a relief because there was less tension now. Because she was more childish. She was. There was more. Dodo helped the Doctor and Stephen in some way.
So was she like the peacemaker almost?
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you need that, don't you? Because when you've got two sort of very strong personalities, you need sort of the almost softer sort of approach to sort of get the other two more stronger ones to sort of listen and sit down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we have that Stephen decided to stay to help a civilization it encountered. Then we have Ben Jackson and Polly Wright. And at the end, the first Doctor met his end after his battle with the Cybermen in Antarctica. That caused a loss of strength to maintain his ancient body to Mondes, draining a large portion of his life force. That's the end of the of his era, of the modern era. But he initially refused to go with the change. We discussed that earlier.
Yeah, he was a stubborn one.
That was with the encounter with the 12th Doctor. He also refused to regenerate.
Yeah, they sort of had them almost in the same circumstance, different Doctor, wasn't it? The idea.
But the first Doctor decided I must say, he refused to regenerate the first Doctor in Twice Upon a Time, also the 12th Doctor. But he saw that what we would become as the Doctor in the future. So as a result, his fear of the change was turned to reassurance for his future.
Yeah,
because he didn't accept his regeneration. So he accepted his regeneration because of he saw one. He trusted the 12th Doctor. So if I become you, then I have trust to regenerate.
Yeah, I think they made him uncertain, didn't they? The first Doctor. Mm-hmm. And you can understand that because, like we said, like he'd lived a whole life in that body.
Yeah.
He wasn't like one of these doctors who only spend so much time in the body and then they have to regenerate. He lived a life in that body, or the first body we knew. So it made sense at least that they would say, well, he's a bit unsure, he needs a bit of help almost.
Yes. Okay, there are other things to talk about the First Doctor. I think we have tackled many things about him.
Yeah, we talked about his companions, sort of some of his stories that we thought were like showed big changes in him. His sort of, like you said, his little mannerisms, his little quirks.
Yeah, maybe it's good to mention we have also some other stories, like audio stories. We will mention about that he has a brother and he has other grandchildren, but that's not. I'm not so familiar with the big finish of the First Doctor, so I don't know.
Yeah,
But there are more grandchildren, and he has a brother. I know.
Yeah,
And there are
I
also
haven't listened.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to a whole lot of First Doctor Big Finish, so
Yeah.
I can't really help you there.
For example, I thought John Woo and Gillian Woo. I think he has three grandchildren: Susan and John and Gillian.
Oh, so what are they all brothers and sisters?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for grandchildren.
Oh, sorry, no, grandchildren. Sorry.
Yeah.
See, I'm one of these though that I don't really want to know that stuff about the First Doctor. I
No.
like not knowing his family.
Yeah, there's more explanation in the related media.
Yeah,
Next
and the
to
expanded.
because in the TV story we don't know. Actually, we don't know much about First Doctor, but more explained in audio in other media or in books. There are more details about him. So what we discuss is more about what we can see in the TV stories, but there are more things to see in the also in audio and books.
Yeah, he's one of the classic Doctors that
Yeah.
he lived on beyond his television episodes, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Whether
And we
that's
see,
other actors playing him or sort of the
yeah,
stories about his Doctor.
yes, and we know some jobs he had. By the way, in the series, he was in some cases it was the deputy sheriff. Can you know the story of that he is in the Wild West?
Yes,
There is a deputy sheriff.
because he also has a toothache in that one, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of
Yeah,
a comedy.
yeah, he has a toothache. Yes.
That's a sort of little side we don't see as much. The sort of comedic
Mm-hmm.
side to him that we saw now and again, but it wasn't really on show like other Doctors.
Yeah.
Because William could pull some very funny faces when it suited him.
Yeah.
I like his sort of surprised face. It always makes me laugh.
Oh, Sadeko has toothache. Oh, that's not so fine.
Oh, that's not very good.
Oh, yeah, he can toothache. Yeah, they must go to the dentist, I think.
That's not easy in the UK.
That's not easy in
It's
the
not
UK.
easy in the UK. No.
Okay. Um, okay. I think that's it for the First Doctor. I think.
Yeah, and we sort of.
I think, and there's nothing more to talk about. I think we have tackled all the things. We have analyzed all things about him.
Well, like we sort of said, obviously compared to everybody else, he is a bit harder to talk about in
Yeah,
some different ways, isn't he?
that's right. The start of this. Okay, you can further. If we can go further to this, then we have much more to talk about. Get the start of this was the start of the show. The show you didn't know how much things about it in the beginning. Okay, we can compare now after everything, but when you saw the for first time Doctor in 1963, you didn't know all this. So he was what you said. He was mysterious. That's what the show was called, Doctor Who. We didn't know much about it, so we can. That's the reason why we can not talk much about, not discuss much things about the first Doctor, because of that.
But I think that's what makes him special. That's what makes him
that make him
stand out.
special. Also, that's why, and that I'm very grateful for William Hartnell's performance, because he was the one who laid the foundation.
Yes, he had to build it from
So,
the
so I
start.
appreciate him. I appreciate him, and he's the original. He is the first.
Oh, he will always be the first.
Yes, always the first and the original.
Very much so.
Yeah. The Doctor should remain mysterious as much as possible. That's right. That's why it's called Doctor Who. That's the reason I love the Doctor Who, and that's why the Cartmel master plan was abandoned. Yeah, because the whole mystery was Cartmel master plan was took away. Was the mystery was gone with him. With
It
his
was just
storyline.
sort of, we'd had little things. Obviously,
Mhm.
obviously with Bill, we didn't know Time Lord at that point. We didn't know Gallifrey. Like I said, a lot of the big sort of parts of the backstory hadn't been filled in, which we're okay with. But it's if you go beyond the required backstory, isn't it? Almost.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not even required, but if you go beyond like the core bits of the backstory, that's when you start to go, no, this is going too far.
Okay. So shall we wrap it up?
So thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Especially
everyone.
tonight in the chat, you've all been brilliant. And thank you, Mods, PD, some of the others that we had in the chat. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. And next time, you can see it in the banner. The intro of the series what I did last week. You can find it on my page. I made a big playlist, and it's called Personality of the First Doctor is the intro. And the playlist is called Psychological Profile of the Doctor.
Yeah, that was sort of a whistle stop tour, wasn't it, last week of all the Doctors, and this week was just about Bill with a little bit of comparison to other Doctors.
Yeah, precies. And next time we do the second Doctor. So I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Queen Charlotte. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a very much fun time when I could use technology.
Yeah. And thank you also, Peter Rich, all in the chat, my dear friends and Wovians. And I want to, wish you everyone a nice week, and see you next time. All bye.
See you next time, folks.
See you next time. Bye.